State.
Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Welcome to the CALEXIT Congress. Today is March 14th. We have a lot of presenters here. We're still getting going. We've had incredible success growing very quickly. We'll get right into the agenda. We are starting on time, but first, let me do this. Screen share. Okay. So what I always like to do is I like to go to here's the forum. All the agendas are on the forum, as you can see. Statements from the president. Here you go on the forum. Every single agenda, all of them, mission statements, agendas going way back, every single meeting the Congress has had with the video posted in. So I post the agenda there before the meeting, and then after the meeting, I insert the video link. So these are perfect documented records of everything we talked about, who said what the links were, going back, super detailed. So here's today's agenda. I would ask if you could mute yourself if you're not speaking, please. Okay, so here's the agenda for March 14th. We'll get right into it, but first, let's do this. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is housekeeping by the president, that's me. So what we're going to do is recover the current and future agenda, then we do the benchmarks and we remind people of the mission statement, and then we have a special reminder. So the agenda today is a presentation by Rabbi Axelman. Rabbi Axelman of Liberty Block is requesting that Yes California specifically partner on a new book aimed at convincing liberals that they must support independence for themselves. There's only one book that does this by Stephen Kreitner. All the rest of the books are conservatives. So this is an idea to do what conservatives have, but for liberals, and have it be a book made by the YesCAL Congress. This would be a great publicity vehicle. It would show our liberal credentials. It would show us as experts as secession. We'll be showing that video in a little bit. Next one is TJ Shelton. TJ Shelton's going to be doing a presentation on a children's game in order to teach institutional discrimination. Kind of a radical blue lefty concept, and we're very proud to be here. He may be asking for partnership and support financially or just intellectually from the CALEXIT Congress, which can now authorize up to $500 worth of funds, or also provide intellectual assistance. We'll be also going to Sam Chaney. He's going to be talking about the 1-year anniversary of the COVID shutdown. 1 year from today, we were told that COVID would last 2 weeks. Well, we're here now. Also, the CDC issued a warning last week saying that even with vaccinations, don't expect things to go back to normal for the, quotes, foreseeable future. That's at least 1 to 3 years out. We want to take a moment of silence for all the people who have lost their lives. Robert Stark is going to talk about how it's okay to torture, put kids in cages, and censor information under the Joe Biden administration, and how that's not California values. So we'll cover that. Rabbi Stephen Axelman is going to talk about how Yes California was exclusively asked to attend one of the largest independence conferences coming up in the East Coast, Porcfest. We'll get into that in a second. There's also a proposed resolution. There's the idea of Greater Idaho. They are also an independence movement. How do we feel about them? We'd like to make a statement on Congress. I'm not taking a stance. It's going to be up to Congress, but it is in the news, and this is what we should do. Look at realistic issues that are going on, take a stance that supports what the Congress can live with, and get it out there. So we'll have a discussion on that. And then we're going to go into Congress votes. Here's the link to where the appointments are for all the committees, committee heads, and the emails to contact those committees. So everything's in the forum. I understand we're still getting everybody on, but look, committees approved by CALEXIT Congress. There's the link. By the way, anyone in the public can view these links. So you have to be given permission to post, but anyone can view these things. So you can share the links, you can share it with grandma, tia, abuela, abuelita, you know, grandma, whatever, and anybody can look at it. We're going to cover the rules made by the different committees. We have a couple of proposed rules to go into. And then at the end, we're going to talk about, at the public comment section, I'm going to show a special message to women that we made today, earlier this week, out of the Professional Culture Creation Committee. I think you'll be very pleased, and we'll talk about how easy it was to do that as a committee. And then we'll discuss that next week. We're having a presentation by a journalist, Kayla Moon, on how to identify narratives and how to fight back against them, something that we will definitely be needing to do. So with that, I need to make a special mention. Yes, California supports the Return California organization. In 2017, Yes, California went on Tucker Carlson's show and talked about how, you know, California committed a genocide against the indigenous. And while we love California and we are proud of our government, this is still the government that committed a genocide in the 1849 against the indigenous, literally paid money for chopped off heads and used that taxpayer money to do that and control the area. Well, the governor's given an apology, but he's never done any sort of reparations. Now, certainly we're not talking about collapsing the economy or doing something like forced migration of people out, but we've never even tried to do reparations at all. We've never even tried to do something to somewhat pay back the genocide that the California government and its citizens and with taxpayer did in the 1850s. And so, yes, California is committed to that conversation, and we are proud of our partners at Return California. We also want to say that we support MMIW, Missing, Murdered, and Indigenous Women. And we also want to point out that we are on Thule land. So right now I am living on Yokut land. Yokuts were the original indigenous people of this area. This is Yokut land. Interesting thing about the Yokuts, they were very Californian. So women could be chiefs just like men. They didn't have gender discrimination, the Yokuts, the indigenous people who lived in the area of Fresno in the Central Valley for thousands of years. Women and men could be equal chiefs. There was no gender discrimination. How California? Secondly, women and men could also basically transgender people, what they call two spirits. You would have one gender and you would identify as the opposite gender. So if you're a heterosexual man, you would identify as a heterosexual female. And they expected you to identify across sexual boundaries in order to hold up your realm in this indigenous culture. Yokuts, fascinating. One last mention about that. Nick Tilson of landback.org said we should all be empowered to have these conversations about returning land to the indigenous. So thank you. We are proud to be partners with the indigenous. We're proud to work with them. We're proud to have them speak at any meetings. And we are proud to work with Return California. We're committed to that conversation. And we are proud to help get Return California going. Okay, that's the agenda. Let's get right into the presentations. So I'm just going to go in order. This is posted in the chat. It's going to go Elliot Axelman, TJ Shelton, Sam Cheney, Robert Stark, Rabbi Stephen Axelman, and then a proposed resolution. And then we'll get into Congress votes. Christine Howard Ashmawi is not here today. Her son had to go to the hospital, but he's fine. He just has a little cold, so babies. Okay, I'm going to do screen share and share this first presentation. So let me figure out how to get there. 1 second here. Nope. Okay, why did that? There we go. No, don't do that. Okay, never mind. Let's just do this. I cannot figure out how to get this button working. Screen share. This is Elliot Axelman of Liberty Block explaining the idea of a book aimed at liberals to convince them that they must support independence or all their rights will be taken away. The right has done 5 versions of this. We're just talking about the first one out there for the left. Richard Kreitner made the only book on secession for people who are progressive. But it didn't say, like, you know, you should do this. What it said was that It's unfair to say that only people on the right support secession. People on the left have historically supported secession. So it's talking about how people on the left in the past have supported secession. And so the narrative of saying that only people on the right support it is not fair. He never really wrote a book on, hey, if you're a progressive, you got to back secession. The right has written numerous books with incredible praise and publicity for them. So Eliot just finished a book aimed at the right on why they should support secession from crazy Californians and other progressives. Since he knows the template and since he got published, he said, I'll work with the CALEXIT Congress to develop a book for the left. That would help you support your progressive credentials, and it would help get the CALEXIT Congress making an argument as to why people in California should support independence, and it would get publicity for the Congress, and we would have a partner with the distribution network. So here's Rabbi Axelman, CALEXIT Congress member.
Hi guys, hello. I like the Congress, all the pro-independence activists out there. Thanks for all you do. I'm a massive pro-independence, pro-freedom activist based in New Hampshire. My name is Rabbi Axelman, Rabbi Axelman. I've been working with Marcus for a few years now on independence stuff. And just told him that I wrote a book about independence. And that's me, person on the right, far right, I'd say radical far right, voluntarist, personally conservative, militarist, capitalist, politically, and front of book, speaking my language, part of the words to areas that I love explaining why the U.S. is a crisis at the top of the world for nations. And the only way to avoid some the only way to make it all that is to allow for self-governance.
Okay. 1 second here. Let me end this. Close that. Go here. Do the. Okay. Okay, we're back. Some people said the audio wasn't coming through. I'm not sure what to do about that. So let me repost. Here's the link for Eliot. And I'm going to post that in the chat for everybody to take a look at. We also at least showed some of his videos. So basically the idea is the right has many books out aimed at, hey, if you're someone on the right, people who are progressive don't believe in the same values you do, they don't play fair, and they're going to come and take away everything that's valuable to you, like gun rights and your understanding of family, whether or not that's true. And I know many of us don't think it is. But the point is that this is a way of communicating that's very popular and very successful. And there's literally one example, period, for the entire left, which is larger than the right. So if we're looking at population numbers for customer bases, the right has, I don't know, a couple million less than the left. And they have a ton of books. So the left has even more millions of people than the right. And there's one book aimed at them on why you should become independent from your perspective. So Eliot just wrote this book. He just got it published. It's aimed for the right. And he goes, let's work for the left. There's only one book, Richard Kreitner, who's a good person. But he talks historically how the left has supported independence. Historically, he doesn't make an argument for now, not really. So the project is, who would like to basically terrify people on the left that the right is going to use voting rigging and unfair systems and not play by fairness, and they'll come into power again, and when they get into power, they'll rig the system and take away all your rights, and there's nothing you can do to stop them because the Constitution gives them that much power. That is the narrative and the summary of the book. So if you'd like to be part of that, please email me or let me know now. I'm going to turn it over to comments from the Congress about this publicity idea. You don't have to be part of it. We're looking for constructive criticism. So did anybody have any comments on this particular publicity project before we go to the next presentation? Anybody at all? You can unmute yourself and say, hey, I like that idea, I don't like that idea. If you're going to do that this way.
Yeah, I'd like to be involved in that.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Jason and me, any comments about this? Okay. No comments. Moving forward. All right. The next presentation is by TJ Shelton. TJ Shelton has developed a game that teaches children and others about institutional discrimination. And as a group that supports California values, although not everybody on the CALEXIT Congress does, we have many Americans here who want to see us gone because they know that we have different values. But this organization is dedicated to promoting California values and promoting Yes California and promoting the conversation of independence. And in doing so, this is a California value, equality, eliminating bigotry. With that, I'll turn it over to TJ Shelton. He'll talk for a few minutes and then we'll take a few questions about this publicity project of a children's game teaching how to defeat discrimination in modern times. TJ.
Hey, what's up, gentlemen? I don't quite see it now. My brother has heard me lay it out a time or two and talk about it. I don't necessarily see it the same way he does. I look at it as chess is an old game, and people either had time in prison or affluence in time to contemplate the stars to get really good at it. Some people studied the game a whole lot and watched videos and followed masters and really invested themselves into being masters at the game. Any of you guys chess players?
I am.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I'm not exactly a master, but I have been known to play many a game.
Yeah, well, master, it's relative to the game. Like my oldest son beats 9.9 out of 10 people he ever met. He thru-hiked the John Muir Trail and one German guy beat him. And he doesn't get beaten chess very often, but take him to a chess club where people study chess and all of a sudden it's a different category. It's like a Fiat versus a Ferrari. And people invest a lot of time into it. But basically it's a re-rack of the game of chess. Are you waving to me? Oh, you're waving. Gotcha.
No, I'm waving to Sam. Please keep going.
It's a re-rack of the game of chess. Basically, we rotate the board. Instead of the light color being to the right, the darker colors to the right. So black's to the right. Black goes first. In the game, we gave pawns extra power. Instead of only being able to move twice on the first move, they can move twice every move. They can also hop somebody directly in front of them. They can kill on a double jump forward and land on a diagonal like a knight, as long as one of their army's members is defending the spot they're going to land. And the king and queen don't have their traditional roles anymore because both of them are fully mobile to move the board with the same mobility as a queen until one of them dies. And now they're in limp mode. So there's more to the game than just the idea of racism. It's like oppression and overstanding and misunderstanding in general, But in this nation, if you want to honestly have that conversation, race is one of the big players in it. And we need to give young people opportunity to come at the world and empower them, and creating a common space that acknowledges what has historically happened, where intelligent people who think logically can converse and bat ideas off of one another is a good thing. And we intend to have more adults and kids playing it. We have a mental health person who is of a mind that if we get to a point where we're mass producing them, he would like to recommend them to kids as a healing tool, place to vent, to play. Right now, we play. I play. My kids play. My 4-year-old plays. She doesn't play theory so much. She plays regular chess. I always teach regular chess first. But all of my kids play. My god kids play. My nieces, my nephews, my homies. We're chess players. We like to talk about what's going on in the world around us and think that it's a great place to do it. This way of doing it creates an opportunity for like a Queen of Kotway style situation. Or is anybody familiar with the movie Queen of Kotway?
No.
It's a true story about a little girl, what you call it, from a poor village who learned to play chess and ended up making it all over the world, internationally renowned chess master, young girl. That there's that Netflix thing on right now about the lady who plays chess that's very popular all over the world right now. So much so that me ordering boards, I can't place special orders for our boards right now. There's so many boards being sold around the globe for chess that they won't touch a small 30 board special order right now. But when they do free up, or if the order is big enough, I have sources for boards with a rotated notation, because the old notation doesn't work in this new way of playing it. It's fun. It plays a lot like chess. It plays faster, more aggressive. You can promote pawns better. And we use it as a place to discuss and talk about theories of all different kinds. We're not afraid of conspiracy theory. We'll look at a theory if it's and it's age appropriate. Like with my 4-year-old, we talk about different things than I talk about with my 17-year-old or my 60-something-year-old father. It's a place for challenged thought and being able to bat things back and forth with people who understand and think logically and have trained into themselves a gift for foresight in a game that has rules, much like this world we live on.
How long till you can get a prototype developed?
Well, I mean, anybody can turn around and play it on their own board. That's the cool thing. I don't have to sell you nothing. We intend to have a tournament where the game is actually officially named in about 3 years. Is our current plan and timeline on that. We might there's some people who say we should do it in less than that and that we should do it in 1 year. But like right now, the name for the game is tentative, and it will be in a period of time based on people who qualified to play it in a fully educated to the concepts level. You know, they don't have to win a tournament or any of that kind of stuff, but they have to know about it to be able to place a bet on the finalization of the rules and the name. And we intend to visit it again 3 years later like a code, but more geared at being a social action theory amongst thinking people on actually how to make things better.
Okay, let's turn it over to questions to TJ Shelton for a few minutes on a game that it's basically a version of chess where he rewrote the rules in order to teach people about institutional discrimination. You can like the idea, you can not like the idea. We're only taking constructive criticism or support. You don't have to support the idea either. Any questions about this game? Chess to teach institutional racism to children. for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next presenter because we've got a special guest for you. Any questions for TJ?
And I don't mind if you don't like the idea. We still play.
I like the idea. I think it's an important concept. I've often dealt with institutional racism, speaking about CALEXIT. So, for example, there have been many people who have said that the Caucasian person that I have partnered with for years is the guy who developed the strategy, understood foreign policy, suggested to reach out to foreign countries, talked about creating an embassy. And what they totally omit is that I wrote a book, not him. I had a foreign policy scholar acknowledge my book. I had a subscription to Foreign Affairs.
So some white guy on here was the first guy to interview you about that book.
Some white guy on here was Sam Chaney was the first guy to interview me. And I'm not, he was. And I'm half white and I love Caucasian people. And I love Californians who are Caucasian because they share our values. I'm just saying that my dad's white. My dad spoke fluent Spanish. My mom's Mexican. She didn't speak any Spanish. My dad taught me to respect Mexicans. He taught me to white culture, Mexican culture just as good, even though he's Caucasian. He also taught me to study other cultures and to love learning about them with National Geographic. He also taught me like French and German and a little bit of Watusi out of Africa. So, you know, and my mom encouraged me to new things. And I was just out with Jason the other day, and he was talking about how he was standing up for other ethnic groups. And I go, that's what makes you a Californian. We have an ideology here that a lot of people in the world don't like, and that's fine. That's what makes us us. You know, this is a unique culture. It's a lot to ask for, but people do put up with it, and I love it. I'm just saying that I've seen institutional discrimination. It is a real thing. There are other groups out there who refuse to believe that I invented the CALEXIT idea, that I wrote a book, that I was the strategist, that I figured out the international policy angles, that I wrote the counter arguments. And they all believe that the other guy that I work with, Louis Marinelli, who I love, was the brainchild behind all that. But he wasn't. He was the marketing guy. He was better at slick at selling it. I was the brain trust. And he said that. But there are many people who won't hear that. And I think the fact that my name has Ruiz in it has something to do with that. And I'll leave it there. So, TJ, thank you. We're going to move on. I got a special message I got to get to. Nothing but peace and love, TJ. And by the way, TJ, super mega Californian. TJ is married to a beautiful woman of a different group ethnically, and he has a mixed race family, and that's so beautiful and awesome. And he stands up for Black Lives Matter. And although he's not African American, he has helped many African American young males be counseled so they don't go back to prison. And wow, do I think that's so Californian to do that. Reminds me of my dad. Okay, moving on. Daniel from the Texas Nationalist Movement just called in. He made a notice to everybody here at Yes California. So Texas Nationalist Movement is here today. They're not on screen. Daniel's here right now. If you go to chat, you can see a special message from the largest secessionist group outside of California directly to Yes California. Not all CALEXIT, just us, CALEXIT Congress. I'll read the message on Daniel's behalf real quick. Texas Nationalist Movement, TNM, will not be able to make this week's meeting. TNM continues to wish best of luck for CALEXIT in their efforts to seek their course of self-determination. The Texas Independence Referendum Act in the Texas legislature now has 5 co-sponsors. Momentum for states' rights to determine their own future is growing. An overbearing, oppressive federal government, which is unresponsive to the citizens, no longer is working. No one in the Washington area should have the ability to even suggest that they can or cannot allow Texians to barbecue on Independence Day. How very Texas. No one gives a Texian permission to barbecue. My family's from Texas. That's true. It's time for any state who wishes to peacefully divorce from a failing union to be able to do so. TNM continues to extend their friendship to you. That's a message directly from Texas Nationalist Movement to Yes California. Thank you, Daniel, the ambassador of the Texas Nationalist Movement. And Yes California is proud to be the only lefty group who's the largest lefty independence movement, recognized by the largest independence movement on the right. That's called working together, even when you don't necessarily think alike. That's called saying we don't share values, but we believe in being reasonable and peaceful And we recognize that we have to reach across the aisle, something they don't do anymore, to get things done with people who we don't necessarily see eye to eye. There was a Californian called Ronald Reagan, and say what you will about him, but he had this idea that he was supposed to attempt to work with people who didn't think like him. That don't happen no more. Okay, yeah, Sam saying that's bad. Okay, we're gonna go right to Sam now. Sam Chaney, on the anniversary of the COVID shutdown, you have 2 to 5 minutes. You can either talk or you can take questions and have a discussion with the other members, whatever you like. Sam Chaney.
The 19th of March is going to mark the 1-year anniversary of medical dictatorship, scientific dictatorship, one-man rule here in California. Gavin Newsom, we know about the French Laundry episode. There's been other episodes. A bunch of our state legislature went to Hawaii when they locked us down here. They're doing all this through no legislation, through emergency orders. Newsom has already lost in court. It's on appeal, and he's looking at a recall. So I would say that a reckoning is coming for this tyrannical behavior by our state government. They've lied to us about every step of the way of this fake pandemic. And as Marcus knows, at the very beginning, he went and protested with the giant signs with us, driving around Fresno, informing people that we're following the World Health Organization recommendations. And they refuse, Fresno County here refuses to give us any data. The state health department refuses to give us any data.
Okay, Sam, we're getting off topic. We're getting off topic. We're supposed to just talk about how this is the 1-year anniversary of COVID. If we could keep it to just that, I'd really appreciate it, sir.
Well, I'm explaining why everyone should be upset about this 1-year anniversary that we're coming up on.
There's a variety of opinions about the recall and about the efficacy of the COVID. I just want to keep it a little bit somewhat middle of the road.
Okay, so let's do it. Let's have our moment of silence for everyone that we lost to the COVID.
Wait, do we count paper people that have been built for 3 or 4 generations making a name?
Okay, sorry, guys, I appreciate it. I will say, Sam, Sam, let me ask you, did the recall effort qualify?
Supposedly it is. I don't think it's 100% official yet.
Yeah, it took 1.5, and right now they're pushing 2, so they could have a whole lot of quote unquote bad signatures that they didn't check, and still, or let's say they did in this case, check signatures real hard. They're still going to be over 1.5, so the recall effort still goes forward. Elect Nick.
Good. Thanks for the information. Sam's right in that this is the 1-year anniversary, and there's been a lot of human misery. I understand there are differences of opinions about how good it was what the Newsom did, how bad it was. Some people think he did everything right. Some people think he did everything wrong. I'm kind of a mixed bag. Congress is reflective of California values, although it's also reflective of the will of Californians. And the fact is that when a ballot initiative just qualified, something we talk about all the time, qualifying a ballot initiative. Well, they just qualified one, and they did it during COVID.
Let me throw in something else there, Marcus. Very much of it was grassroots. Okay, funding didn't come in until the very end, until they already had 1 million+ signatures. Big funding to actually pay signature gatherers. So this was a true grassroots effort to gather the signatures to qualify for the special election here. So that is reflective of California values. The people have spoken through direct democracy, and thankfully we still have that political action against the government. I'm predicting they're going to do something to make it even harder in the future for us poor little citizens to have direct political action against the state government, as we know is their modus operandi when things go the way that the state doesn't like. When people take power into their own hands, we've seen that happen.
I am a progressive, but that's completely true. So the ballot initiative used to be $200. Then they bumped it to $2,000. Oh, and they said, oh, to cover costs. Well, all that did was price out lower income people. So if you go back 4 or 5 years ago, You saw a lot of ballot initiatives from a wide variety of Californians covering many ideas. Now there's only a few, and they're more corporate. So you just priced out the middle class, and you just moved out a lot of people from California who had the chance to get ideas out there. Like, one of my favorite ones was 5 years ago when they go, oh, these ballot initiatives, people write all this crazy stuff. There was a guy talking about reforming a company called PG&E, and he was saying that they don't manage their equipment right, and that could result in forest fires. That was one of the crazy ballot initiatives brought up by a crazy Californian 5 years ago, which we had moved on, would have prevented the forest fires and the blackouts we saw last year. How insane for regular Californians to identify problems and bring it to the legislature in a way that they cannot stop years before. Wow, madness. Also, The Economist magazine said that California possibly had the most democratic government in the planet, close to Switzerland, because of our ballot initiative process. The ballot initiative process used to be very simple, then it got more complex. And it used to have a lower voter signature threshold, and then they raised the signature threshold. And it used to be $200, and then it was $2,000. So guaranteed, if you look at the laws relating to the initiative process, every year it's made more difficult. I'm not going to get into theories, but that's a fact. That is a fact that it gives people in California an unprecedented level of direct access to change their laws that almost no one on earth has. I'm not joking. The initiative process is found in maybe like 10 governments out of 200, 400 on earth. It's almost not found anywhere. We have it here in California and we love it. So very few countries, governments even have it. And if they do, very few even use it. California's like California, Switzerland, and maybe 2 other places on the planet out of maybe 400, 600,000 identifiable governments actually have this process where the public can go directly to the voters and skip the legislature. So no wonder they want it gone. Yeah, absolutely. It's becoming more difficult, but also recognize the power that had there. This is a Democratic voting-based California, and they still got the recall effort. 5th largest economy, super well thought of governor, big Democratic majority, and they still qualified a ballot initiative during COVID. So folks, that means, yes, you can get ballot initiatives qualified. Yes, you can do things that the power structure doesn't like. Yes, you can do stuff that major politicians will trash talk. Yes, you can qualify an initiative without $2 million. They just did it. So whether you like the recall initiative or not, it is proof of proof for what we do here. Sam, any last comments on the 1-year anniversary?
Like I said, let's take a moment of silence for everyone that we lost, and pray that that we can recover from this horrible disaster.
A 1-minute moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you all. Next, we're going to go to Robert Stark. Robert Stark, you there?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me post this in chat. I'm going to show the message that Robert pointed out, and then I will come back to Robert. So 1 second. This tweet is not available to you. Why not? Okay, 1 second. Here we go.
I see it.
Okay. Yeah, let me do.
No, copy and paste it too.
Screen sharing, share screen. Okay, right here, Glenn Greenwald, just like torture became enhanced interrogation techniques, just like kids in cages are now referred to as migrant children detained in immigration facilities. Warms my heart. Journalists are now starting to refer to their incessant censorship demands as content moderation challenges. So Robert, what does this mean about Joe Biden's America? We were told we have returned to decency in America and a repudiation of all the ugliness that Donald Trump did, which we were told was not a reflection of America.
Yeah, yeah, there's like a lot of partisan Democrats who act like everything was fine in this country until Trump was elected, but Trump is just a symptom or just a product of overall trends, and just Biden being elected. For those like who voted for Biden thinking there would be change, it's basically the same, and it's the same country, and a lot of the same problems are there, the same structure.
So you feel there wasn't a mass repudiation of all the horrible stuff that the orange one did, who I personally hate. One of the things that shocked me, but this is the reason why. People go, are you left? Are you on the right? I'm on the left, but I won't lie for my side. That's why I have a lot of friends on the right, is that I'll call out someone on the left when you're not doing something progressive. We were told that Donald Trump put kids in cages and that he was a monster for doing it. Okay, I bought it. And then Joe Biden reopened the top facility that did that stuff, and now they're calling it containers? That's totally different. AOC slammed that. Why aren't we attacking Joe Biden? He also said, what was it? He's not going to call out China on the genocide of the Uyghurs. And then he also said he's not going to call Saudi Arabia out on an execution of a journalist. That sounds like the orange one to me. Why are we all upset at him?
Hey, isn't it still the 99% against the 1%? I mean, that's back where we're at. I mean, it's
Yes,
for
sir,
the
Sam.
establishment.
Yes, sir.
And to me, it looks like we're the 99% over here looking back up at the 1%.
TJ?
Red wing, blue wing, green tail, one bird.
There you go. Robert, thoughts, feelings?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that not much is changing under Biden, and like going back, what happened under the Obama era, that's what led to Trump. So it's like they just want to like go back in time, rather than any progress. But I think it just vindicates, just keeping an eye on like what happens with Biden. But it's pretty. I think right now it's pretty clear, and it just validates the case for CALEXIT.
It's business as usual, right? It's business as usual. We want to deploy munitions in Syria. We want to keep our dollar control protectionism. And I realize they done screwed it all up, and they're running forward down a hill, kicking a can as fast as they can before they go over on their nose while everybody's shorting the dollar. Damn, it sucks. Now, what are we going to do about it? And Sam's right. It's about the people and not so much the political overstanding of two teams on the same team using a media to divide and paint the orange man for using the tools built by the blue man bad. And of course, now they're cool again. Please, whatever.
That sounds like a California to me that just spoke. Folks, we have California values. And people go, oh, you have 3 Trump voters there? And yeah, but they support California values. And the ones that don't are working with us so that we can become independent, so we can support California values. So all of our conservatives either support California values or they believe that we should. And I got to tell you, this is why I like calling out Biden. These are not our values. These are not our values. Not calling out a country for discriminating against an entire ethnic group is not a California value. Not calling out governments for executing journalists and freedom of speech is not a California value. Putting children in cages is not a California value. Continuing a policy of children in cages is not a California value. Appointing an oil executive as your climate change liaison is not a California value. Telling the top 5 African-American civil rights groups in America to hell with you, literally quote, to hell with you, if you don't like the fact that I'm going to appoint a racist on my board, is not a California value. And yes, Biden did that. The top 5 African-American civil rights groups told Biden, do not appoint this particular person because we believe that he's racist because he knocked out one of Obama's appointees. And Biden said, I'm going to do what I want, and quotes, to hell with you. I don't think telling the top 5 civil rights organizations who are African American in America to hell with you when they express an issue about racism is acceptable. And the reason I bring these up is this is not our guy, okay? So say what you will. I get he's not the other guy. This is not our guy. These are not California values. We don't support them. Okay, Robert, last comments before we move on?
Yeah, I don't have that much more to say, but I think it's just important. It shows the contrast. And what I will say is I think you should have somewhere on the site or on the forum where you post that Greenwald link.
Done. Thank you. And the forum is for everybody. Okay, we're going to move on to Rabbi Axelman. Rabbi Axelman just got permission for Yes California to be part of the largest secessionist conference, I believe, in America coming up in the near future. Rabbi, I'm going to turn to you in 1 second. Let me just do this real quick. Let me share screen. And what we're going to do is this. This is Porcfest. The rabbi will be covering this. It's the Porcupine Freedom Festival at porcfest.com. A Free State Project. They got a whole website. They're planning. Look, a lot of stuff going on. And Yes California was specifically invited to represent California independence. I'll stop there, turning it over to Rabbi Axelman. Sir.
Yeah, okay. I just want to correct you slightly. It's not a secessionist conference. It's a libertarian conference that they've been having for about 17 years. I've never gone to it. It's 6 hours from my house. They get between 1,000 and 2,000 people. They have booths and pavilions for gazillions of different subjects. This year, NH-EXIT, which is sort of the unofficial representative of the New Hampshire Foundation for Independence, together with Americans United for Peaceful Separation, is officially inviting any secessionist movement to come there to meet, to support each other, exchange ideas. I think it's the greatest opportunity ever. I'm very excited that Marcus says CALEXIT will come. We've reached out to TXIT. I believe if TXIT will also come, the potential is amazing. Tom Woods is going to be there. There's going to be some big names in the libertarian movement. The more secessionist movements that come, the more press will come, and the more several legislators in New Hampshire who may privately back secession will come. So the cycle can be really, really positive. I meet with about 7, 8 other people from NH-EXIT online. Hopefully between all of us, we're going to be reaching out to any secessionist peaceful separation movements that there are in the country and see as many as we can get in person. If they can't come in person, even if they come virtually, although the internet supposedly is really lousy out there because it's a very isolated campground. So, but we're still going to hopefully get the press, which I'm sure the more that come, the more we'll get press. It's press there anyway, but smaller. And there are some bigger names that come. And obviously things will be videoed. And there will be people broadcasting podcasts from there, even as a matter of course, even without the secessionist angle. So again, the more movements that come, the bigger the stage the secessionist part of the festival will be. So I'm actually really, really excited, especially if TXIT will show up. But even if just a few other movements come, I think it's maybe the first opportunity that I know about for serious secessionist movements to actually network and trade ideas and support. So that's all I got to say.
You're good. That was good. See what he did, everybody? He hit the major points. He was like, pop, 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 pop. Done. Porcfest coming up. Yes, California is proud to have already accepted going. We were requested. And so I just want to point out the benchmarks here. We have someone who's a separate organization asking to work with Yes California on a children's game, and someone asking to work with Yes California on this libertarian convention, and someone asking to work with Yes California on a book. This is winning. Multiple publicity vehicles going forward. Any questions about Porcfest to the rabbi? Any questions at all about Porcfest?
I just want to add really quickly, I was originally very opposed to Porcfest because I'm a Jew and I don't eat pork. And then I realized, I'm serious. And then I realized it was PORC and it's short for the Porcupine Festival, and the porcupine has to do with the don't tread on us kind of a theme. But when I say Porcfest and I'm a rabbi, I just want to make it really clear.
Hey, do you eat porcupines?
No, but nobody's tempted to eat porcupine.
A lot of work, I thought, Porcfest, this sounds like a good place for our politicians and Alec to hang out.
That's where I was going. Yeah, but it's not. It's libertarian porcupine. So
But
I have a
think
question.
most of the people will support peaceful separation, even if they don't want New Hampshire to secede. So it's a great opportunity.
I agree. Jason, a question for Rabbi Axelman.
Yeah, is this going to be an online event? Like, can we attend through Zoom or webinar or whatever?
That's what they're hoping, that we can do some of it online. The problem is it's isolated. And we go to porcfest.com, and one of the things they talk about is how crappy the internet is. They're always trying to get a little bit more in there, maybe with hotspots or something else, but to do a major Zoom thing seems to be impossible there. So, and even 4G, they say is spotty. I've never been there physically, so I don't know. My hope is that people can somehow, even by phone, join up, but up for grabs, because for some reason they do it in an isolated place.
Okay. Any other questions?
I cannot guarantee there won't be any illegal substances there.
Well, they're not illegal in California, so.
I cannot guarantee.
Okay. All right. So book coming, children's game coming, big conference coming. Notes will be coming out with emails for everybody. You can contact the projects you want to work on. And, all these people are coming to the CALEXIT Congress, and asking to work with us. And we just got started. We're literally 6 weeks out. So this is really good. Okay, moving on. We're going to, let me do a share screen. 1 second. One second here. Sorry about that. Okay. Share screen. Okay, on behalf of Return California partner of Yes California, asked us to promote this particular event to the CALEXIT Congress. It's called Indigenous Resistance in the Black Hills. It's going to be a conference on Indigenous people taking back the, basically, I think the mountains where the Mount Rushmore is. So this will be in the email. It's also in the chat. If you'd like to go, it's going to be a very interesting conversation. And Yes California fully supports all of the projects Return California does. Okay.
Can we get a link to that in the chat, please?
Yep.
If possible.
Yep, right here. 1 second. And it is in the chat now. Okay, moving on to the last big issue. We have about 5 minutes for the major presentations. Before we start Congress, I'm gonna push that back 5 minutes and then we'll start Congress. So we'll talk about this for 10 minutes. So this is the big thing. We just qualified, oh, I'm sorry. Let me do a quick call out. Nicholas Wildstar, CALEXIT Congress member, will be here in the future and is basically a free man. He was protesting the Orange County court system and the legal right to publish one's own hearing. That was a big snafu. He dealt with the courts, and he was recently, this Friday, declared free. So we support him, and we support all of our CALEXIT Congress members as they try to pursue activism however they see fit, as long as it's peaceful and legal. Anyways, now moving on to the last issue. How do we just file, we just approved a resolution earlier this week. It is the first proposed resolution from the CALEXIT Congress. I called many people and asked them for a vote. We did the vote on Google Doc. Almost everybody voted. We got like 95% return, which is excellent. A lot of people were curious if we could make the entire Congress move since it's very large, and we proved this week that we could do that. We were able to get all 43 people to basically respond, 95% of them, within about 2 days. The resolution was approved for saying that the federal courts should not be able to strike down California laws that are designed to keep us alive. There was a law by Californians saying that we did not want mega churches to be allowed to operate. Small churches were okay, but mega churches, we felt here in California, at least the majority of Californians did. I understand not everybody agrees with this, but a majority of Californians did agree with the idea that mega churches opening was not a good idea. We proposed rules in order to do that, to keep people here alive, and the federal Supreme Court struck that down. When we asked CALEXIT Congress members, do you feel it's okay for us to propose laws to literally keep ourselves alive and not have the federal government say, well, yeah, I know this might be bad for you, but we're going to strike it down anyways because of our understanding? Almost everybody said no. There were a couple people who said, yes, I think that's their right. Maybe 7%. And then 93% were like, no, that's not okay. Whether I like that particular decision by Californians, I think that a government that is popularly supported, even if there's a recall effort out, still has majority support, for some of these precautionary rules, that they should be able to have the laws that they want, and they should not be taken away. Same thing with Texas. If Texas decided they wanted everybody to have rocket launchers because they felt that that helped keep them safe for some reason, is it okay for a government to come and say, I don't care what majority of Texans think, you don't get to have these things that you in your heart feel are there to keep you alive? So we in California have different values, but we had these things. And we passed this law and it was struck down. We said that's not okay. That was our first resolution. Here's our second resolution. I'm going to copy it and do a share screen. Okay. So here we go. Give it 1 second to load. Okay, here's the second proposed resolution. Not sure what stance to take on it. We're going to open this up to discussion for a few minutes, and we'll push back the Congress session a few minutes to go into it. Several counties in Oregon, Washington, and California are petitioning to begin the process to change state lines and join Idaho. It's called the Greater Idaho Project. It includes the interior of Oregon, a big amount of Washington, all basically saying, let's join Idaho, along with basically what is the Jefferson movement. So this is the Jefferson movement area merging themselves, whether they're part of it or not, consciously into this Greater Idaho thing. This is not exactly a secession movement. This is a forming a new state movement. And there is constitutional rules on how to do that. However, the Jefferson area would not be allowed to leave California for anything unless the majority of Californians said that was okay. That's the law. So if you want to leave and join a new state, you have to get permission from a majority of the populace. Additionally, when Tim Draper proposed 2 different initiatives to split California up into 3 and 6 states, they did surveys of Californians. And those 2 initiatives are only a few years old. Both surveys, both times he proposed splitting up California, showed 2/3 were against it here in California. So acknowledging those facts, I'm going to turn it over to Congress for a discussion. What stance should we take on this issue that you feel is fair to Congress and not hypocritical? Jason Wright.
Yeah, so for me personally, I've recognized, I believe it was actually Lewis who pointed out that we, with our movement, doing certain things, being legal, peaceful, follow law, but you know, if it's the law and you want to exercise your right, that you have that right. So I want to be clear that I support the right to use the law in its legal constructs in a manner befitting each individual. I would also like to point out that our potential path that we could take for our self-determination that would follow the United Nations guidelines of self-determination and all of that. One of the stipulations is that the land in question has its borders currently defined as what they were back when the people were their own people. So if California was to let go of like about a third of our territory, it would change our national boundaries. And then we might actually no longer be eligible for pursuance of UN Entrance Treaty Article 5. Again, I do support people's right to peacefully exercise the law. I want to be clear.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this idea? Do you like this idea? Do you not like this idea? Do you think it's cool?
Yeah, I'm open to the idea. Would you be open to a resolution about whether there should be like micro states allowed as part of a CALEXIT initiative?
So Robert, I think what you're saying, we have to take a stance that directly reflects on this. So they're talking about part of California leaves and joins Greater Idaho. Are we cool with that, or are we not cool with that? And our resolution needs to be some sort of reflexive thing. Micro states within a future California independent nation, totally support that. We've said that. I'm not sure this latches onto that. Let's go to Rabbi Axelman real quick, and then Robert will come right back to you. I want to get everybody involved. And
Yeah,
TJ, I see
real
you.
quick, I'm a big fan of Greater Idaho. It's a peaceful separatist movement. It's exercising self-determination. So,
Rabbi, do you know anything? I heard a rumor, I'm not sure, asking that the people who stormed the federal wildlife refuge in Oregon had something to do with starting this Greater Idaho movement. That was not a peaceful event, although Greater Idaho looks like it's not violent. Is there any connection to that Malamar
I
wildlife
don't
refuge?
know. I don't know of a connection, but I can't tell you there isn't unless I talk to them more directly.
Okay. But generally, you think it's fair. Hey, if you're following the law and pursuing peaceful legal process, we should at least support you to not be full hypocrites. Is that fair?
I just think we're pro self-determination, especially if done peacefully. So I don't know how else we could without being hypocritical.
Jason Wright completely agrees with you. Let's go to TJ, and then we'll take some more comments. TJ?
I believe that being as your intention is to peacefully, legally separate, that maybe what Jason said is something that as a body you should really consider whether or not internationally you retain these codified rights, if you would. And maybe it's a multi-staged process of they partner with CALEXIT, and then CALEXIT can split to them just to be able to have the best international legal case.
You're saying CALEXIT would
Jason's saying that if something like this went down, that California might lose standing with the United Nations because it modified the borders, and now the historic land is no longer the onus for the right to separate, right? So if you dissolve your unified old land right to someone else, are you not hindering your own case? Would it be better for them to work together toward both of their separation, and then they can resolve the border between them issues as a new entity instead of two different attempts that in some ways are nullifying the other one's traction. Just thought,
Okay.
because of the legal
Okay.
process.
Okay. So TJ, I think, is saying Jefferson should work with CALEXIT. We could become independent. And then once we pass that legal threshold pointed out by Jason, then CALEXIT could allow Jefferson to split off since we got our independence, and then they could join Greater Idaho. Is that roughly fair,
Amen.
TJ?
Yes, right. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're trying to use the legal system as it stands, I don't think we should ignore Jason's point. Jason brings up a really good point that could be used to both of our advantage by them needing to help and support us as we are for it to be able to go down.
Okay. I see your hand, Jason. 1 second. I want to get a couple other comments in. So Daniel from Texas Nationalist Movement. Texas Nationalist Movement also relies on some of the rules the UN has in place to achieve independence. So that's the ambassador from the Texas Nationalist Movement saying that he agrees with Jason Wright, CALEXIT Congress member, on the UN treaty ensuring a right to self-determination. When we add that up with Rabbi Axelman's statement about we're saying that we are pursuing a legal right to self-determination, how can we say that someone else doesn't have that right? I'm starting to smell a consensus somewhere there, but we're still looking at ideas. So everybody, please, Jason, I'll get to you in a second. I want to make sure we get everybody a chance. Anybody have any ideas about any way you want to look at this idea? Greater Idaho, like it, don't like it, want to conditionally support it, but with some, drawbacks, not this, but that. Comments, open brainstorming. What stance should we take on this issue? Anybody who hasn't talked, please jump in and give your opinion. This is open brainstorming. Okay, we're going to go to Jason. Jason.
Yeah, so to answer TJ's point, that is pretty much the same thing that I have been telling folks for the last several years when they talk about Jefferson, Cascadia, Orexit, the Washington movement, even, the folks down in Baja. They're a little bit different of a scenario where they might actually need to pursue theirs at the same time that we do ours. But like for, Oregon or Washington, right? The only way that, this big Pacifica conglomerate could happen is, one, California re-establishes nationhood and independence. Then comes the next step of reaching out and forming these alliances, these, partnerships, and building up this new nation of Pacifica. Right. So it definitely, there is a kind of an order to things. And yeah, I'm just trying to reaffirm what TJ was saying there, is that yes, there is an order, and we could potentially be more beneficial to one another by working with each other to achieve step one before starting on step two. I would also like to ask the Congress, since it does seem that there is a consensus, as the chair of the domestic committee, I would like to have permission from Congress to look into this further and report back as far as a definite for sure, should we reach out, what would happen, a basic analysis.
I agree. We also want to get this out relatively soon. The domestic and international committees meet Tuesday at 7. So this Tuesday at 7, please join Jason. He'll discuss this. I'd like to just because it takes a little while to get all the votes in and to kind of get this thing going on. And just because we're trying to get Congress known, and one of the best ways to do that is to get resolutions out. So while we are going to use the system perfectly well, there's a few things we need to move a little bit faster on, just because we're trying to build a name for ourselves. So definitely we will discuss this Tuesday at 7 by the committees now jointly ran by Robert Stark and Jason Wright. We'll get to that in a little bit. But let me try something to see if roughly this might be something people can agree with. And then tell me if you guys hate this idea or not. Just because, again, in the future, the resolution committees are going to be constantly pumping out resolutions and doing most of this. I'm just trying to get Congress up and running with legs. So occasionally I take executive privilege to move certain projects along so that we are moving quicker and faster. I will occasionally do that. How about this? Yes, California agrees with the Texas nationalist movement that the UN treaty guarantees the right to peaceful and legal separation through self-determination. And we think all people have that right anywhere in the world because their country was a signatory to the UN treaty and it guarantees the right of self-determination, and America has signed that. And Daniel's saying here, basically TNM also relies on the rules of the UN. So we could say, yes, California agrees with the Texas nationalist movement that the UN treaty guaranteeing the art of self-determination is the right way to go, and that everybody has access to pursue peaceful legal secession. So right away, we're saying, hey, they have the right. And we're saying, hey, we're allied mentally with TNM. That's good media. That shows, yes, California is working with Texas nationalist movement, which Daniel's here. It also shows that we recognize the international law. It also shows that we, although we are Californians with California values, and Greater Idaho really doesn't share our view of the way things should be, that we recognize they have the right to pursue peaceful independence too. And we're straight up saying it. On top of that, after we say, hey, everybody has the right to UN treaty, countries signed it, self-determination. I'm sorry, I'm going on 6 hours sleep, which is not super much for me, so pardon me. Blah, 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 UN treaty, you signed it, self-determination, everybody has the right, peaceful, legal, totally support that, just like TNM. Yes, California does. Part 1. Part 2. Recognizing, though, that you have to follow the law. We also recognize that the people in Northern California will have to get approval from the rest of Californians to go, period, if they want to pursue legal, peaceful independence. And so we at Yes California are ready to stand as partners with them to make their case to California, provided they help make the case to Californians that California should become independent. So California becomes independent, they help us out with that, then we turn right about around and help them out with forming a state and saying, hey, Californians, now that we're independent, we should give them a fair chance to vote on if they want to stay or join another state. So 2-part resolution. We support the UN, Article 5 treaty, self-determination. Everybody on earth has that right. Yes, California Congress says that. Shows we know international law, shows we support we're not hypocrites, and shows we work with the largest other secessionist group. Part 2, we're also Californians though. And hey, Jefferson, that's cool, but you're gonna have to get our votes, which will help you do after you help us, tit for tat. How do people roughly feel about that combination of what sort of everything that's been said here? Could you live with that? Do you hate it? Open comments.
I would suggest be very careful about an actual promissory statement, which we will help you do if you help, right? That's one in exchange to promise. I like the feeling and where it's going. I would just tiny little bit of caution with just that little bit of wording, but it could be used in that effect with slightly different wording.
Okay, provided the caveat, caution that Jason brought up, good idea. We need to call each other out. Thank you for doing that, constructive criticism. Could people live with this idea as the rough direction of this resolution? So I'm looking for hands up or hands down. I can't live with the rough direction this resolution's going, or I could live with it.
Hey,
So
you want to
Darren?
do legal? So I vote we work with the legal framework as best as possible, as Daniel and Jason are recommending. But brother, I'm for Ruizia. If you want to have a plaque outside your house
Oh,
and around your land and on your yard, be Ruizia. I'm for it, bro. And you're right to do it.
I thank you. Thank you. You're the third person to say that this week. I don't want to be a dictator and I don't want to run my own thing. You guys got to understand, I'm president because it needs to get done, not because I like the power. I mean, any of you that talk to me privately know how I feel about power. It's to get things done. So thank you. I'm flattered.
I'm talking about self-determination in your own property, brother.
Got it. Got it.
That's what I'm talking
Okay.
about.
Thank you. So just to move things forward, because we have 9 people here right now. Are people opposed to a resolution that roughly says CALEXIT Congress supports the right of self-determination because it's in the UN Charter, just like Texas Nationalist Movement says, we have the same opinion, and everybody has the right to pursue legal, peaceful secession based upon the UN Charter, self-determination, and that we would, we also recognize that Californians would have to approve of Jefferson leaving, and we would be willing to help have that conversation, perhaps not necessarily back them, but help that conversation in return for them helping to have a conversation on CALEXIT. Tit for tat legal. Sam.
I just wonder why we care what the UN says. Are we following international law here? I support the right for self-determination, but I don't understand
Amen.
why we care what the UN has to say.
It's just that when we say that we're peaceful, we usually have to say that we're legal. When we say that we're legal, so it's hard to say you're peaceful if you're not legal. It's hard to say you're legal if you're not pointing at a specific law. So we looked at the UN article of self-determination because it was the thing that we could show that almost everybody recognizes that there is a precedent and some sort of power underneath international law going back since, I don't know, 45, 50. And so it was something hard we could point to and go, the law says, and here it is. That's why. If we say we generally support a spirit of self-determination, it doesn't come across as though we're understanding the law or too concerned about it.
The way I see it is our politicians built it. Okay, it's infected the whole world. It has a lot to do with the whole world. The UN does, but they built it. They're the ones holding us together. We darn sure should be able to use it against them.
That's what I liked about it, is everybody signed this UN treaty. Almost every country on earth, except for 2 or 3, signed this thing. And buried in there is people have the right to choose their own government, period. And in America, the thing
You know,
I like
the
is that
Declaration of Independence also says something similar, but I understand now. So thank you for explaining that.
could people roughly live with the CALEXIT Congress says, UN article, blah, blah, blah. It's the legal thing. We support that. TNM does too. That's kind of cool. And so out of that spirit, we think it's okay for them to have a peaceful legal vote. Is there at least consensus on that part? Okay,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of thumbs up. Is anybody horribly opposed to that and would say, my God, you put yes next to my name, I cannot live with that? Okay, then I'm going to say that we have at least 8 Congress members who were okay with that rough phrasing going forward. We, like TNM, support the UN article treaty, self-determination, as long as you're pursuing peaceful legal, we support that. There may additionally be some language in there about in order to support peaceful, then the Jefferson group would need to get the permission from California to be able to do that, and we may be willing to help them dialogue, not necessarily support that, as long as they're willing to help dialogue with us. Everybody roughly okay with that? Nobody horrified by that statement? Okay, TJ?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I thought you wanted to say something, brother.
Oh, no, but I agree with Sam. It's both of them are ideas about liberty, right? The UN thing is a framework that has been created by those in this organization on top of it that we live in. It's hard to say that it's anything but our creation. Granted, it's global, but we're the ones that got that thing going, and it supports this idea of liberty and self-determination, just like what he was saying in the Declaration of Independence. It supports that idea of liberty and self-determination. I think that it's both an agreeing principle for all of us. It's just what document we're using to found it. I look at the Declaration of Independence as by all means necessary, more Malcolm X style. We're trying to bring a Martin Luther King approach. Is like, hey man, we don't need to chuck hands. Let's just talk this out.
Yeah. Okay. So we have 8 members approving. What I'd like to do is pass this over to the Domestic Issues Committee, Jason Wright. He's head of that committee. I know he's working very well with Robert Stark. And if you can draft up some language, roughly what people seem to agree with. So as long as you're roughly sticking in with what people seem here to agree with, and you can draft that up, then Tuesday we'll finalize it. And what I'll do is I'll send out a Google Doc and we'll get everybody else to vote on it. And we should be able to wrap the votes up by Thursday. So I also want to point out Daniel from the Texas Nationals.
Quick technical question about the Google Docs. When you enter, like I did that vote, I put my little X on there. I don't know, does it save it automatically or how does it?
Yes.
So you just put something on there and exit out and it's done deal. It saves it.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
we will get
that's
to
the first time I've ever used Google Docs. So I didn't understand.
We'll get to that.
If I needed to save it or what?
We'll get to that. Hold that. I'm going to call on you, Sam. Let me just finish up this resolution thing, and then we're going to get to that in Congress. Thank you. Good point. I'm just trying to keep it, for people watching the video, so they go, oh, that's that part. Now this is part. Okay, I get it. Okay, so Jason, we're passing it off to you, head of the domestic committee. You are allowed to work with Robert, but develop a text Tuesday, finalize it. It has to match roughly what the people here agreed to. And then we will list everybody here as voting at least tacitly for it. And then we'll try to get the rest of the people voting Tuesday night after the committee meeting and wrap this up by Thursday. So we'll have a full vote on our second resolution coming up this week. Need to point out Daniel from the Texas Nationalist Movement. This is what we at the TNM point to when we try to counter the folks who say that it is illegal to secede. The UN has a process for this, and the US cannot go against the UN rules, which it has agreed to. That's from Daniel Rice, Ambassador to Texas Nationalist Movement, and Ambassador here working with Yes California. Also from Daniel, Texas Nationalist Movement. Ambassador, it is important to recognize, as much as some may not like the UN and how it operates sometimes, this UN rule is specifically designed to avoid armed secession movements. We are committed to legal. We are committed to nonviolent. Good point, Daniel. Proud, Yes California, to be partners with the Texas Nationalist Movement. Okay, Jason, you got your marching orders. I'll help you out, but go Shakespearean, not too wordy. Take that out and we'll go from there. I'm going to end this section and we're going to move to Congress. So give me 1 second. One second here. Okay, if everybody can look at the chat box. Christine Howard Ashmawi is not here today. Her son got sick and life comes first or we don't get anything done. So always take care of your family. He's fine. Babies get sick. I told her babies get sick. My niece got sick all the time. It's fine. She was all worried. I'm like, just go to the doctor. It's going to be fine. So little man is keeping one of our top officers away. Little man. Brett Pike. Brett Pike is here.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello, California. How are you?
Hey, we just started the Congress section, but real quick, Brett, can I ask you to just 2 minutes? Who are you and how long have you known CALEXIT?
That's I'll start with the second question because I'm still trying to answer the
okay.
first one.
How long have you known CALEXIT for just 2 minutes, and then we're going to right to Congress?
So I think it was in 2015 when I hooked up with the CNP in Sacramento and started working with Theo. I can't remember his last name, but Theo and Kevin and some other folks. And you know, it was shortly before the Trump situation started. So it was, we got a lot, like everybody else, we got a lot of you know, interest when Trump got elected. But yeah, we got together. We wrote a platform for kind of our vision of the future of California. And I thought it went really well. You know, the platform, that was the 2018 platform that then was slightly revised for 2020. But yeah, I took it to the Capitol. I was living in near downtown Sacramento at the time, and dropped it off at legislators' offices and talked to people. And the thing that was interesting was to go into the Capitol and say, well, you know, we think California needs a new party because, you know, one party ruled by the Democrats is not great. And a lot of people in the Capitol were like, yeah, you do have a point there. And so it was interesting to get that perspective. And I went to some what do they call them, committee meetings, and spoke on behalf of some legislation. And you know, it was a good experience, you know, and we did some tabling as well. But yeah, then I was a student at UC Davis at the time. I finished there, and I now live in Colombia. I live in Bogota, Colombia. And so I don't pay attention to North American politics much now, and I think my life is the better for it. But I have a huge amount of respect for everyone in the movement who is challenging the binary. So let me just add one more thing, and then I'll conclude my 2 minutes. So Colombia had well, they had a war, and then when they signed the peace agreement, they also revised the constitution at the same time. And that allowed for, that went from a two-party system with liberals and conservatives to a multi-party system where they have about eight parties now. Like the Green Party, there's right-wing parties and left-wing parties. And I strongly prefer that system. I think the two-party system has a lot of fundamental flaws. And I think Colombia is a really interesting case study to see how you move from two-party to multi-party. I mean, hopefully you can do it without a civil war, but it seems like it certainly stabilized things here. So yes, that's my 2 minutes.
Brett's been a CALEXIT member for years. Came in, I think, 2016, 2017, but like 1/3 of Californians in 2017 that we talked to at Yes California, 1/3 of Californians, February 2017, said they were ready to secede. When we talked to those people in California, they said, I'd always thought of this idea. You know, I had always had this an idea. I just didn't know it'd get that big. So awesome. Brett, also, I have to say, I'm going to out you a little bit, but a lot of the reason why we built CALEXIT Congress this way was based upon your experience. Not just yours, but I heard your story from many people. Now, I'm not going to name names. I don't want to do that. I want to keep it nice and good. But Brett had an idea of, I support CALEXIT. I want to do something. I don't want to just sit around and talk. And so he talked, but then eventually he just went to the Capitol and started talking to politicians. And he was waiting for approval, fine, you know, it never happened. And he just went and did it. And he actually started lobbying, just jumping in and doing it. And then what he found with the organization that he was with was constant, like he'd go and tell them the idea and they'd shut it down, or we don't know, or don't do that, or I'm not sure. And the alternative was, okay, well, who's going to be doing lobbying in Sacramento? If you don't like my idea, you don't like I'm doing it, who's going to do it? And the answer was nothing. They're just, I don't like the way you're doing it, so let's just not doing it. And I saw many people leaving other groups because they wanted to do something. They cared. And they were trying to get permission and trying to get support, and they couldn't get it. For whatever reason, these groups were like, no, we don't like this reason, we don't like that, we don't, whatever reason. And so I just kept having all these people coming to me going, I can't get anything done. I can't get permission, I can't get support. It's just constant fighting left and right to get anything done. And so I'd like to be part of a group that at least doesn't get in my way or supports me. And if you hate my idea, then don't say anything, but let me at least go. And so Brett was a little frustrated, highly effective. And you know what happened was Brett just got frustrated to the point that he kind of just bowed out a little bit. And what happened? The entire movement lost the only person we had lobbying in the Capitol. Total loss for all of us. That's failure. Oh, I don't like the way he's lobbying. Okay, when are you going to lobby? Well, I don't know. Let's just have nothing. No. So that's why the CALEXIT Congress is very much, you don't have to support it. But there is no, I don't like your idea and let's just shut it down. There is constructive criticism. There is, here's how to make your idea better. There is, I'll work with you. There is allocating funds up to $500 now, but there's no, just don't do that. And so, Brett, am I saying things wildly inaccurate, or did that actually happen?
And I just, I think, everybody means well in a volunteer organization, I think. And so we had this platform, and it was a lot of work to get it done, and then said, okay, we have a document that we can look to say what the CNP stands for. And then, Theo was a very, organizationally minded guy. He reads Robert's Rules of Orders and wrote the bylaws and all that. And so he created this role where, my role was then to go to the Capitol and advocate on behalf of the platform. And the problem became when I would come back to the group and say, okay, here's what I've been doing. And people would say, well, I didn't vote for that. I didn't vote for that. We didn't agree on that. And I said, yes, we did. For the last 2 years, we put together this platform, and then I got authorized to advocate on its behalf. And that's what I'm doing now. So it was a kind of a micromanagement type of thing. And it kind of reminded me of, you ever hear about, I think it's the Amish, who they have to get 100% approval before they build a barn. And so it takes them like 40 years to decide to build anything. It kind of felt a little bit like that. And so yeah, that was kind of the breaking point for me. And also, one of the things that some people at the Capitol told me was that, I would be just as ineffective advocating as an individual as a member of a group that nobody had ever heard of. And just so that was kind of the point where I said, okay, it's great that CNP as a brand has recognition. I can also, just as an advocate, a concerned citizen, and you go to the Capitol 3 or 4 times, that people start to recognize you. And yeah, that was something that was more, it simplified my life a lot, because I couldn't spend, for every 3-hour trip to the Capitol, I couldn't spend another 6 hours explaining it to the board. I just didn't have the time for it. And so yeah, I think kind of being an individual working from a set, a document, a core document was something that made the most sense to me.
So yeah, Brett's here. There's a lot of ex-CALEXIT member or old CALEXIT members who are part of this CALEXIT Congress who believe that we have the right to have this discussion. And frankly, after the coup, we saw in DC that America's unstable and that it is wise for people who buy a home to have an earthquake insurance policy. It is wise to sail a boat, and when the boat starts sinking, plan to have a lifeboat. It is unreasonable to say, oh, the ship's sinking, it's taking on water. Can we start building a life raft? No, don't even talk about it. So, we've had a lot of ex-CALEXIT members come back, especially after January 6th, looking at that. But we also wanted to not make some of the mistakes of the past. So, Brett, thanks for corroborating that a lot of the design of the CALEXIT is based upon not making mistakes from the past. It's from learning the past. We're about production projects, publicity projects. We're about helping each other out. We're about getting things done. We do not tolerate the idea of, I don't like that, just scrap the idea, and even if that means don't do anything. That being said, you don't necessarily have to back every idea, but this is a high production team to get things done. So thanks, Brett, for help me teach everybody the rules. Okay, we're going to finish up with Congress. We are 3 minutes behind. I'm not going to let Congress go more than 10 minutes behind because I'm committed to keeping the promise I made to CALEXIT members. We're going to end on time. So for another 7 minutes, we're going to handle a little bit more Congress business. At 12:40, 10 minutes behind, we will go to the public comment section with some goodies there, a message for women. Okay, I also want to say, welcome, Professor. How you doing? Good to see you, and welcome, Return California. Return California is a partner agency and a friend for Yes California. We introduced the idea of Return California early on at the beginning of this meeting. We talked about the YOCUTs. We talked about how we support returning land. We talked about MMIW, and we talked about how eternal love for the idea of paying back for the genocide with the indigenous at the beginning of this conference. Very pleased to see Return California here. Moving right along to Congress business. So Christine Howard Ishmawi of the Professional Culture Committee was going to do some professional team building work today. She's not here today, so we will skip that till next week. But the Professional Culture Creation Committee, which meets every Monday at 7, everyone's invited to go. We are constantly developing ideas on how to make this the most high performance group ever. High productive team where people can disagree, but they always get things done. And it's always a productive conversation. And we're always pumping things out and people feel energized and respected. And if you like, that's Mondays at 7, this same channel. Okay, she will not be here. So we have a very simple thing for everybody. Congress votes on 3 different things just for approval. You can disapprove or you can say, yeah, I'm cool with it, I can live with it. So here's the 3 things that we worked out this week that I need approval from the Congress before we can do anything. Number 1, we want to move the committee meetings to just Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday from 7 to 9. So originally it was pick any day, anytime you want. What I'd like to do is have it where committee meetings are just Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, 7 to 9. So you get 3 different days, 3 different times in the evening. You got to fit your meetings somewhere in there. Partly I did that so that it's easy to keep track of. We have this Sunday meeting, and it's like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday at 7. That's the committee meeting. So it's easier for people to remember, but also so that we don't have committee meetings every single day going out the week. It's just unworkable. How do people feel about that? Are they opposed to us making sure committee meetings are only Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 7 and 9? Sometime in there, you have to fit your committee meeting. Is anyone opposed to that idea? Okay, not seeing anyone opposed, that passes. Obviously, there's a 72-hour period afterwards for anyone in Congress to say they disapprove, and we'll go from that, but the group seems okay with that. Secondly, the Domestic Policy Committee by Jason Wright and the International Policy Committee by Robert Stark met on Wednesday, and they said, let's have joint meetings. The International Committee is going to be proposing resolutions, statements in the news, like there's a coup in Myanmar. How does the Congress feel about it? The resolutions will be the way that we show that Congress is active. Congresses typically allocate funds and make resolutions. So we want to be looking at news issues and making statements. Do we support it? Do we not support it? Is it against California values? Is it not something an independent California would ever support? Is it something we would support? There's no right or wrong answer, but it's basically you need to be seen as looking at the world, understanding what's going on, and taking a stance on it that reflects your mission goals. Since the domestic committee was going to be looking at domestic issues and proposing resolutions a lot, and the international committee was going to be looking at foreign issues and proposing resolutions, Robert and Jason said, well, let's work together in a joint committee with 2 heads. Is anyone opposed to the domestic and international committees merging together as kind of a super resolution committee? I'm not seeing anyone opposed. Anyone horrified by that idea? Okay, then that passes too. Again, 72-hour period to disapprove. Finally, resolutions. The way we want to do resolutions now is we want to propose them like this on Sunday, discuss them, come up with a rough text of what it would say. Then we'll have a Google Doc that will come out and be text or email to everybody. And you would literally just click the link on the Google Doc, open it up, and there would be a yes or a no box next to your name. And you would just click yes or no. So we tried that this week. We sent out a Google Doc. Not every, it worked mostly well, but what we like to do is have a resolution, have a discussion on Sunday, at least get 8 to 10 votes. So we're at least getting a third of the Congress activated, roughly work out the text, and then tell people over 3 days afterwards with a simple Google Doc link, vote yes or no on this. And that would be the way that we could get votes through many people in about 3 days. And everybody gets their chance to be heard. I don't like this idea. I do like this idea. But we'd be allowed to have a large group of people, but we'd also be making resolutions and taking stances, which makes us look good. Is anyone opposed to the format of resolutions are proposed Sunday? At least one way. Resolutions can also be proposed in committees, but at least one way of doing it would be you could go to Congress, we would discuss the resolution, take people's feedback, work out a rough narrative that we're okay with, and then the committees or whatever could work, or the president or whatever could work on the final text, and we get that out in a Google Doc. But basically 90% of the members would just get a Google Doc link, and it would only have one issue. You click open the link, it pops open, it says, how do you feel about kids in cages? Is that cool that America does that? Or is that not cool and we shouldn't allow that in California? Yes or no? Is anyone opposed to that being the voting format for resolutions? Okay, I don't see anyone opposed. That passes. We are now done with the Congress session. It's 12:42. We're 12 minutes behind. I'm going to end the official meeting right now. The official meeting of the CALEXIT Congress is over. We ended 12 minutes behind. We're going to start the public comment section where anyone from the public can talk to Congress or do whatever. Congress members do not have to stay. You can stay if you want, and we're open to the public to comment. I'm going to show a video here. Bill Mayer. Okay, since we have a public comment section, and this is kind of open, Mike Cole just suggested a video for us to watch. Let me take a look real quick. No, sorry. That's a very funny video, Mike, but there's some words in there I don't want to show in the Congress. So if you go to chat right now, you can look at the video by Bill Maher. Very funny. A little bit of wording I don't want to show, but I thought it was funny. Mike, there's some, I got to keep it PG, okay? There's some R-rated words in that Bill Maher section. Sorry. Okay. All right, we're going to go to the last part. I'm going to do a screen share. 1 second. So let me do a screen share. This was done out of the Professional Culture Creation Committee. It was designed to get publicity for Yes California CALEXIT Congress. It was designed to attract new members. It was designed to show California values. And we literally put this together in 1 hour on Zoom. So Christine, Jason, and myself put together this message. They go, hey, here's a big event happening. We should take a stance on it. Yes, California taking a stance at the CALEXIT Congress on this issue. We'll get in the news. It's newsworthy. This is how we show that we're relevant and we have progressive values, even though we're willing to work with conservatives. And we do high-level things to get good publicity. And literally, Jason and Christine figured out the talking point, figured out the counter arguments, wrote the speech, worked with me on practicing it 5 times, and we filmed it, recorded it, and Christine edited and packaged the thing in 60 minutes. 60 minutes. Concept to package. I'm going to show you now the video they put together, but this wasn't slapped together. This was, what is the idea? How do we think about it? How do we think about it better? Let's summarize that down to a few bullet points. Okay, let's write that on the speech. Okay, let's upgrade the wording of the speech so it sounds really professional. Okay, let's practice a bunch of times so Marcus has it coming out really great. Okay, let's add some packaging in so we have a final beautiful video. 1 hour. This is the kind of stuff I want us to be doing. Because this was not me. I didn't think of this idea. I didn't tell people what to do. This was Christine and Jason going almost every step of the way. This is what we should be doing. Here's what I think. And I was literally just going, Take a look at the final product and tell me if you're pleased. Here we go.
can't hear it.
Just give it a second. Okay, I get people had trouble hearing it. We apparently have all sorts of issues with that. I'm going to post it in chat. I'm sorry, 1 second. Let me. Okay, whoops. Okay, wow. Okay, sorry about that. Technical difficulties. If you go to the chat, you can watch the video and see it. I just needed to show it. So basically, it was a message to International Women's Day. Christine Howard Ishmael noticed it was International Women's Day. She said, we should have a video out saying that we support that. She and Jason worked out the news angle, figured out roughly what the wording should be. Also, like this raising the hand, that was a key thing you had to do to show that you understood the movement. So there was some key wording and some key positioning to show that we actually understood the movement. And then they developed the speech. We edited the speech. We practiced it like a million times. And then we made that final video. So I'll let you watch that to see the thing. But I just want to point out, we can do really professional stuff that's high level and really high quality. And we can do it in about an hour on Zoom as a team. This was the most productive team meeting I'd ever had. And we got a final video product out that a lot of people like when they see the final version. I actually sent this to a few women who are not in the movement, and they go, oh, thank you, that was awesome. So it worked. I want this to be an example of the kind of stuff we can do in the future. So if you see other issues, you think the Congress should take a stance, talk to me. Let's make a video. Let's get out there. Let's make noise. All right, that is it. I have nothing left to share. Turn it over to public comments. Professor Walter Williams. Professor, you have to unmute yourself. There you go.
I noticed in the website for the California National Party, they had a platform and pretty extensive list of different topics. And I think it's well done. Rather than reinvent the wheel, I wonder if we could maybe just start from there. And then if we want to adapt it, we could. Is there any reason not to?
I'm not going to talk about other CALEXIT groups, so I'll just leave it there, just because it's problematic for me. So everybody else can share their comments. As president, because of my past history, I'm not going to be part of this conversation, but please respond to the professor's comment, and wherever Congress goes, we'll go.
So I understand. I hear what Marcus is saying about, you know, the various group dynamics, and thank you, Walter. It was a lot of work to put that together, and it was crowdsourced. There were more than 50 people who contributed kind of ideas and primary material, and then we had a committee of 5 that edited it down into a readable form. Yeah, for the most part, it's in the Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren kind of social democrat spectrum. But then if you look at like the gun control, for example, is much more, I guess it's a more liberal policies, but the gun control is more right wing than the Warren Sanders section, for example. And that was, you know, a reflection of, you know, trying to balance the various regions of California. Yeah, and especially the opening chapter and the final chapter, kind of the philosophy of secession, I think was well done, and there was a lot of, you know, wrangling of language to get something that was mutually acceptable. Yeah, I mean, I think you can definitely support CALEXIT or CNP or vice versa. What's kind of complicated is it seems like there's kind of two groups in the CALEXIT movement, one of whom is socialist and one of whom is libertarian, and finding things that they agree on, you know, can be difficult. And so for me, like the two, I don't think I belong to a party at this point. I think I'm registered green at this point. But you know, the policies that I support are UBI and universal healthcare, which you know, which are traditionally kind of socialist ideas. But the reason why I support them, my reasons are more libertarian, because it reduces the size of government and takes burdens off of small business and so on. So I think, you know, absolutely, you could pick and choose any parts of the platform that you want. We ended up handing out the platform at tabling events, and we printed it on Amazon, and it costs like, I think $2.30 for a copy. And then we would just give it away. People would pick it up and look through it, and they would ask how much it was, and then say, hey, you can have it. Because I don't know if you print like a single sheet of paper in color, that costs, you know, 80 cents. And so for an extra $1, you can get a 200-page book that it makes people feel like they're getting something of value. And hopefully those copies are still floating around. I think it is copyrighted by the party, but I expect that Theo would be fine with it being reused. I mean, if you wanted to take it and, you know, rebrand it as the CALEXIT platform, or not and take the platform without having the CNP association, I think that would be fine. But yeah, I think it appeals to a lot of people who are looking for solutions that I don't think the United States can provide at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on this. My feelings are my feelings on this, but then like what I'm about to say comes more from a just analysis of things, right? We have been very careful not to break any sort of laws of any varying sorts, right? Now, taking some copyrighted material and committing plagiarism on it, this is breaking a law. I highly, highly suggest we do not do anything like that. And here's why. We don't need to. We are the ones. I was involved with all of that too. I was the one who the CNP folks, they asked, you know, will folks come together, right? At that point in time, Yes was working very closely with CNP. And as one of the people helping them out, when they asked who can research and who can do all of this stuff and help formulate the ideas on all of these complex issues, I was there in the thick of it the whole time. And I watched a lot of my stuff go to their credit. I get no credit for it. And I would be breaking laws if I was to use my own writings, because they are, as you said, now property of CNP. So really, we already have these ideas. We are already pushing on all of these ideas and more. We don't need to take someone else's anything, anyone else's anything, no matter who it is.
Well,
that's my thoughts on it.
May I say something? What I was suggesting is that we just maybe use that as a starting place, and then we could change things, adapt things as we felt would make it better. rather than just trying to have to come up with something out of the blue. Let's see.
But we already have our starting place.
Jason, please let the professor finish.
Okay, my apologies.
No,
Professor?
no problem. Well, Jason, what did you mean when you said we already have ours?
Well, that's the CALEXIT Congress that we're in right now. That's the CALEXIT Congress website that we're part of, that we use to vote and, post all of our, all of our thoughts and our ideas.
Okay, and I think that's great, but I'm just saying, let's make reference to other things, and then that, or if other people know of other things that have already been done. Jason, I think you have a little inaccurate perception of libel law. You can certainly reword things, and that's not plagiarism. It's only plagiarism if you quote extensively and then use the exact wording and pass it off as your own. But there's no reason why we couldn't actually say, this particular idea came from the California National Party or whatever, and give attribution if we think it's necessary. But a lot of these things are very short statements that are just general, and that's not something that would be covered by libel law. I don't think we'd have to worry about that. I was just saying that rather than us spinning wheels and trying to reinvent everything from scratch, that this might be something that we might want to look at as we put together our ideas.
You could start an ad hoc committee and ask people if they want to work with you looking at this. You can meet Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, anytime between 7 to 8 on this channel, and have a discussion and come back if you want. I'm taking absolutely no stance on this for political reasons, but that's an option. You can have committee meetings and you can, hey, I want to do this. Who wants to work with me on it? Nobody can tell you no.
Yeah. And the thing that I would suggest would be to reach out to Theo, and I think if you talk to him for 5 minutes, he would authorize you to use the text in any form you wanted. So yeah, I agree that we should not plagiarize it, but the first year the platform made like $5 in sales, so I mean it's not a moneymaker, and I think it would be fine. But yeah, you wouldn't want to seek permission before you're using exact word chunks. But yeah, we didn't invent UBI or most of the other ideas in it, but yeah, it is a nice format. I appreciate it.
I have to bring this up.
I'm sorry, Marcus, if I may, real quick, just to be very clear, we already, as a group, the CALEXIT Congress, support all sorts of ideas that are relative to California and Californian needs. And that means that we don't need to do anything different. If the CNP is on that same page, that's good for them. Great, more power to them. We don't need to go and mimic them because we're already doing it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, TJ, 1 second. I have to just make a little housekeeping note. Again, trying to stay out of this one because this is rife with issues popping up. I'll just say this. There is some less than super mega awesome relationship between Yes California and this other group. And there may be less than total enthusiasm on their part having anything to do with us. Additionally, because in the last few months, there's been some very strong language by many people in a not super nice fashion about Yes. Working with people who said not super nice things may not be very popular with Yes people. So just realize there's a lot of politics that's going to have to get solved before this idea's ever approved. Sorry, I'll shut up and leave it there. TJ. TJ.
Hey, how's it going? My 4-year-old daughter, or 5-year-old, I'm sorry, she'd kill me. She's 5. She plays chess. Yes, she can play a full game. She's got her first chess. Unassisted, nobody telling her how. But here's the way I see it. Like, my daughter tells me almost every morning if I'm there and she's there and we're together, happy Reformation Day, Daddy. And we say every day's Reformation Day. And Martin Luther, back in Halloween 503 years ago, nailed 95 ideas to a bulletin board that some people read and ended up getting to translate some texts into another language. And there was a lot of work involved there. Okay. I think we should stand on the shoulders of giants where the giants have been prepared for us. We should take any avenue for information that is available to us and use it to our benefit, much like you do. You take ideas and you help consolidate them and move them forward. And if there is a repository of information that we can use, I don't have any problem with it. To me, it's using the work of other humans toward human benefit, and that's what Reformation's about. And every day is Reformation Day. I don't care. I'll use your idea. You can use mine.
Okay, we'll have this conversation for another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to end the recording. So, comments about Professor Walter Williams' idea. I'm staying out of this, and also there's a lot of politics that would have to get solved before, yes, Congress ever officially did this, but we don't shoot down ideas here. So who would like to work with the professor? Do you have any questions for the professor on this idea? Now's your time to speak for another 5 minutes, and then we'll end the show. Any comments about this idea from anyone? Professor, do you have more to say on this? You can sell the idea more?
Well, all these political difficulties between groups, it always happens, but we just cannot let that stymie us and bring us to no action. And so, I was just saying it in terms of, let's look at the general topics that they cover, the general stance. If we can get some ideas from them, why not? Okay, I'm not saying plagiarize. I'm not saying necessarily write it in the same exact wording, but I just think whether it's that website or any other, I would like us to be able to reference widely. And I second what TJ just said. And I think, Brett, is it what you said about Theo? I've heard that name bandied about, but I don't know who this is or how to get in touch with them. But if you think that would be conducive, I would be happy to talk with them if Marcus doesn't have objections. I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth for something that I don't even know what's going on with some of this past politics. So, I'm not real excited about that. But I don't think we should just be letting those things stymie us and prevent us from going forward.
Well,
Okay.
Walter, just for your information, since you stated that you kind of aren't sure about some of the backroom, behind the scenes stuff, in very recent history, I'm not saying years ago, I'm saying very recently, the people in question have said things that are very questionable and harsh against Marcus personally, as yes.
All right, thank you. I want to keep it nice. Okay, we typically never speak about other groups, and I really don't want drama. So let's stay real friendly, please. Jason.
Yeah, and I was just trying to point that out for his information so that because he said, I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth with something I'm not entirely, and that's clearly a, hey, anyone got a heads up for me? So I'm just trying to provide that heads up of, yeah, you know, that is a very heavily mined area of water there that I can't say for certain whether or not anyone should decide for themselves to tread in there. But if you're asking if I think it would be safe, right? No, it's very heavily mined waters.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to end this discussion. Appreciate it. If you'd like to work on that project, I will add the professor's email, and anybody who would like to work with them can form a committee and they can work on that. Additionally, we'll have information on the Porcfest and how to contact Rabbi Stephen Axelman about the book aimed for liberals on You Have to Secede, with contacts to Elliot Axelman. Additionally, the teaching children about bigotry, in modern times with TJ. Also, we'll have a resolution coming out with the domestic committee by Jason Wright on Greater Idaho and the UN Articles of Self-Determination. And that will all be coming out. I also want to say welcome to Rich C. and Matt Pagan, new people who've agreed to start watching the CALEXIT Congress. So we are growing every single day with new folks. I'm going to end the recording now. You don't have to go. It just means the recording's over.